Okay, on page 8, you asked for number 6, E. Okay, E looks like it's a mess. 32x to the third, z to the fourth, minus 40xz squared. And that's where you're going to start. There's a bottom to that, but I'll put it there in a minute. When you have two terms separated by a plus or minus, it's called a polynomial. The way to factor that is by using a GCF. So we're going to look at the numbers first only. Don't even worry about the letters yet. The greatest common factor of 32 and 40 is going to be 8. 8 times 4 for 32, and 8 times 5 for 40. We'll use the 4 and the 5 in a minute. Now look at the x's. Do they both have x's? Yes. Do they both have x to the first in them? Yeah, this is x to the first. That's x to the first plus 2 extra pieces. Do they both have x squared in them? This has x squared and 1 extra, but this doesn't even have x squared. So the greatest thing that's common amongst both pieces of x, they both have x to the first power in them. That's part of the GCF also. For the z's, do both of the z's have 2 things in them? 2 z's? Well, yeah. This has exactly 2 different z's. This has 2 different z's and 2 extra. So z squared is the most that they had in common with each other. Now again, we said x to the first was common. This is x to the first, which is just what I've used, x to the first. This is x and 2 left over for x squared. So for x to the third, I'm using the common x already out here. Z squared is just z squared. Z to the fourth is z squared times another z squared. So if I use up one of the z squareds, this will have an extra z squared in it. That won't. If I pull the 8 as my greatest common factor out front, also I've used up that factor and that factor. So what does 32 blah 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 have left over? A 4, an x squared, and a z squared. And that goes in there. The only factor this has left over is a 5. And the sign in front of it's minus, so that's how we factor the top. Now on the bottom of the original, we had negative 8xz. So now I take this negative 8xz and put it over here, and realize that this in here is still a binomial, because it's separated by a minus sign or a plus sign, in this case a minus sign. But the guy out front here is a multiplier, which is a monomial, and those can reduce. X and x match up. Z and z match up, but leaves 1 extra z behind. The 8 and the 8 match up, but leaves what sign down below? A minus sign. So, technically what you can do here is this. You can take the minus sign and say, okay, everything on the bottom, I can shift it to the top and get negative z times 4x squared, z squared, minus 5 is my answer. But now on the bottom had an x and a z to start with. So x and z, neither one of those could be 0, because we created an undefined fraction. That's your answer with that constraint.